Hey, I'm Mike Song, and I wanted to say hi to all the ARC folks who are watching this webinar recording. And I wanted to let you know that I'm sorry we did have a mix up with our recording process on the last time we sent this out. So I know that it caused some disruption to your lives, and an otherwise stellar event was kind of maybe taken down a bit. And I really felt terrible about that. It's trying to have the highest standard for everything we do, but I was moving too fast on that particular day. So I'm really sorry. Welcome to Get Control of Email, Outlook, and Your Smartphone. I'm Mike Song. Let's jump in and get rolling. Now, within this presentation, I want you to look for what I call wow moments. Moments where you say, wow, I didn't know you could do that with Outlook or email. And what I want you to try to consider is when you feel that way, really think about sharing that and your energy and enthusiasm and insight with someone else that you know. What we have discovered is that learning is really much more powerful when you yourself put yourself in the role of maybe helping or teaching someone else. So try to do that. And I think what you'll find is this is part of building your sense of confidence in your technology skills, is to show somebody something else that you didn't know and maybe they don't know either. Now, our agenda for today is pretty simple. We're going to go through a class called Get Control of Email, Outlook, and Your Smartphone, with the idea being that at the end of the class, you will have boosted your skills in these sort of three areas in terms of the email portion of it by 30% in your own estimation. People who apply the principles to this particular webinar tell us that they are saving about 30 minutes a day. That equates to 15 business days per year. Overriding all the things that we're going to talk about today, or really basically the over kind of the big picture analysis of it, is a concept called TQ, which stands for Tech Quotient. And Tech Quotient is all about how you perceive technology in your life. We believe it's here to stay. It's only going to become more immersive in terms of the amount of technology we're going to use each day. So we decided to define it as the ability to strategically learn, leverage, and share technology with other people. That's quite a different definition than most people have. Most people will say, you want to learn how to use that technology so you get more done. Well, we want you to get more done too, but we also want you to concentrate on doing this on an ongoing basis, leveraging it in the real world. So practical technology insight is far more important than technology insight in general. And then sharing that knowledge with other people, we think, is a part of what having a higher aptitude, or TQ, for work with technology. If you think about it, you've got an IQ, and your IQ is somewhat of a difficult number to change. And it's also important for your ability to do things, is to have enough intelligence to do them. Now, I like to broaden IQ out to all the knowledge you have of your organization and the best practices that you use to do your job. So business IQ is a little bit easier to change. And that's how I think of IQ. But it's not really easy to change. And neither is EQ, which is your emotional intelligence. You absolutely can get better at working with people and become a better teammate or leader. Emotional intelligence is really important. In fact, the place where these two things overlap, you usually have a highly talented, valuable employee who's doing great work. But there's a third leg of this tripod that this is balancing on, and I like to call it TQ. And I think when you have all three of these things, you're going to have a successful career. It's almost definitely for sure, because you'll know what you're doing, you'll work well with people, and you'll understand how to leverage the number one aspect of the work that we do, and that is our technology. IQ plus EQ plus TQ is our formula for career success, and we hope you think about that. How can I boost those three kinds of aptitudes day in and day out? Well, today's agenda, we're going to talk about reducing overload through the uses of simplification, automation. These are some TQ principles. Automation, duplication of certain things, in other words, template building, and effective communication will be the second piece of it. So clear and effective communication is another big component of TQ, because we communicate through technology. And then we're going to encourage you to share these ideas, as I said earlier, with other people. So let's jump into the first portion of today's agenda, the part about reducing overload. So first, let's talk a little bit about what overload we're experiencing. Most people will say they get a lot of email to process, manage, move, prioritize, and get done every day. But do you know how many minutes it takes every time you're simply interrupted by an email? And another big part of the strategy for TQ is to manage your interruptions. So here the idea is, how much time does it take to get back up to speed when you're interrupted by an email? The answer to that question is 15 minutes. It's a long time before you're back up at speed. So a lot of where we lose productivity, performance, and efficiency is when we are not managing our interruptions. And moreover, this shows how email can actually be a disruptor and a productivity detractor versus something that makes us more and more productive. So think about this as you go through your day. How many times am I being interrupted? A great exercise that you might even want to do right now, since you're here with me. So here's my phone, and I'm going to click on the settings button here and tap settings. I'm going to go in and you follow along with me. Go onto settings and look for notifications on your smartphone, whatever kind you have, notifications, and challenge yourself to turn things off. So here's an All Trails app. I don't need to be pinged by this on a regular basis, so I'm going to turn that off. And I turned my Amazon and other things off so that I wouldn't be interrupted on a daily basis. So that's the first insight for today: is manage your interruptions aggressively if you want to boost your TQ and your performance. So what are we going to use to help you get more done? If you think about this, it's kind of like you're between a rock and a hard place unless you get creative. We don't have an assistant coming in to help you do more. There's a lot of technology out there, but what do? Well, I suggest that you would change your perspective on how you view technology. And maybe it's a little bit more fun to think of technology as a series of fun little robots that are designed to help you get much more done, right? Fun robots designed to help you get more done. So I'll introduce you to these robots, but there's a few important rules to remember. If I show you a robot in Outlook, don't think of it as an Outlook robot. Think of it as a function robot that might exist in other tools, like on your smartphone or on a web browser. In other words, think expansively about what these robots are doing and search for this function in other areas. Now, I will explain that with a real-world example in just a few minutes. Also, these robots are fun and lonely. They're lonely robots. They don't get used by most professionals, and yet they're around all the time. It's a terrible existence. So I recommend you have a fun attitude of like, hey, technology, come help me out, and we'll keep each other company, and we'll be best buddies, okay? So let me start to tell you that the robots should provide you with shortcuts, faster ways of finding things, and templates so you don't duplicate and create things that you don't have to recreate. But there's many other kinds of robots out there. And so I will show you those as we go through the presentation. Now, I know that most of you are on Outlook, and I want to show you the first robot, and I call this robot the navigation bot. Now, this little robot creates a better navigation screen with some extra features with just a couple mouse clicks. So I recommend that everybody convert from their view in Outlook to this particular NavBot view. So let's go into a version of Outlook here. I'm going to undo my expanded view. And notice the icons are smaller. They're not as descriptive. They're little symbols that are tiny, tiny little symbols in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, right? What we want to do is click on this three-dot button. Now, here's a TQ insight. You always want to be exploring any three-dot button or anything that you can click on to allow you to learn what more options there are. So here we will click on the three-dot button, scroll up and select Navigation Options, and uncheck Compact Navigation. And we can also rearrange the order of some of these things here. There's a very powerful shortcutting tool that I use here. It's a lot like favorites in email, but I think a little more reliably easy to use and find and so on. We can also adjust the maximum number of visible items here and click OK. So instantaneously out on our screen comes this wonderful new toolbar. And you can see that I can click and drag things to rearrange the order here and get it just right. Another great benefit is when I hover over, for example, my calendar, what I can see is I can scroll through the possibilities of my schedule. Notice I'm color coding my calendar and that shows up too. Or I can go way into the future and find an important date out there in the future. Calendar navigation is something we do a lot. It actually takes a lot of mental energy. So I also want to introduce you to a couple calendar robots along our journey here today. But the thing that I love about this pop-up feature, which also works to search mail and tasks, to search for people, you can search your tasks and your calendar, but not your mail. I think I made it sound like that. How does the shortcuts feature work? Well, think of your top 10 or 15 most utilized locations within the Outlook world. And you're going to initially get this. It'll be like this with nothing in it. You're going to want to just right-click on shortcuts select a new shortcut, and then find the thing that you want to shortcut to. So if I want to have all my social media stuff pop up right here on my screen, I can click social media and click OK. Now it appears over here. I can click and drag this up to whatever its priority is. And what I like about it is it's very easy to read, and you can even customize. You can right click, for example, and rename the shortcuts. So it allows for a lot of really quick organization. So I spend a lot of time here because I will check my deleted folder or my sent folder from time to time. I even send my email. So my outbox, I check my outbox if I want to go find an email real fast. So that is the first robot, our NavBot robot. Can we give this robot a big round of applause? Now, the NavBot robot works very closely in tandem with the Transformer robot. And the Transformer robot is a very powerful tool that we should all be using within the world of Outlook. Its number one purpose, although it has many things that it does, is to send an email with a task or see an email with a task in your inbox and transform it into a scheduled action. And to do it quickly and easily without a lot of mental energy. Because one of the most common things that we have in this work world that we're in, quite frankly, is that we will get we'll see the need for us to go grab something super fast and do something with it. So if in this message here from David, let's say this message here from David has some information in it. First of all, if he's asking if I'm available, I would hover over my calendar and I say, oh yeah, you know what? He wants to do something on a particular date. Watch this. Let's say I have to do this task and I got to get it done by tomorrow. I can left click and drag the task into calendar and put it right on my calendar by left clicking and dragging and dropping it onto the calendar icon, which is now, by the way, a nice big target popped open on my other screen, but that's fine. And there we see, for all to see, the wonderful, the message there in a calendar format. I can schedule this. I can do a bunch of different things with it. So the Transformer robot helps me with my time management. This is something important. I need to schedule it for tomorrow. I know that I'm busy till about 3 p.m. I hit save and close. Maybe I even put the word action in here. Action. And all of a sudden, I'm getting stuff done and work's a little bit more fun. So the second robot is the Transformer robot. The Transformer robot. The next robot is the Search Bot. Very powerful robot. And I always like to mention that we did this training for Microsoft's Outlook team, and they loved the training. They actually brought us in just to see if we could show them some tips and tricks on their own stuff, and it sure was fun to find that they didn't really know many of these at all, which actually was a great career moment for me because I realized, we can help a lot of people with this type of training. And so their head of the Outlook Office 365 team gave us this nice review. The Search Bot was their favorite tip. So let's meet the Search Bot, okay? The Search Bot, I'm just going to get rid of some of this email here that's not too super relevant for today. Here we go. So the Search Bot here is a robot that allows us to essentially search for stuff that we want. What happens is we get a lot of I'm working with a charity and there's a lot of new information flowing in from that charity, pushing some important work stuff down farther below. So if I need to find an email with an attachment, let's just say from Lisa Rivera, and I went in and I just started to type her last name, as most people use a primarily, almost exclusively keyword search approach. I type her last name in there. If I hit enter here, notice that many of these email messages that pop up, in fact, most of them right now, are actually not from Lisa. See that? Can you see how that is interesting there? So how do I get to that stuff fast? And by the way, I'm not an inbox zero person. I know that many people are and do well with it. I find that I get so much email coming in that I don't try to always get it down to zero. I try to do that once or twice a month, but mostly what I'm trying to do is get everything done that's been required of me. So searching for it fast like this is how I do it. Oh, I need something from Lisa. Let me click on the From button. I type in Rivera. I hit enter. Now every message is instantly from Lisa. I click, it has attachments button, and I can see all the messages from Lisa with attachments. And usually then I can scroll through and find what I need pretty quickly. So I find this to be a much faster way of doing it. Now, the search bot that you just saw is actually activated in almost every kind of search technology, has wonderful advanced features that most people aren't quite using. So if I go into the Outlook app, for example, and I click into this area here, and then I click in and I want to search for the same thing, emails with attachments from Lisa Rivera. I can click on the little magnifying glass, and then I can do this a few different ways. Now I can tap on Lisa right here because she's a common sender to me. But if she wasn't, I could start typing her last name, and sure enough, there she would come up. And see, it says from Lisa Rivera. It's basically telling you want all that email from Lisa, right? And what about the attachments? Well, notice the filter button here. I can tap on the filter button, signify attachments, and now I'm looking at all the email from Lisa with attachments. And if that wasn't good enough for you, on your personal Gmail account, let me just guess, you have a Gmail account. Lucky guess, right? Well, about 95% of professionals have a Gmail account. There's a few people still on Yahoo and AOL and stuff like that. No problem with that. But you'll see a little arrow like this, a little down arrow here. See this down arrow? The same thing is on Gmail. It's also here. It's another way for you to designate, I want to look at all the email messages from Lisa Rivera that has attachments. Yes. Click search. Same search. See that? So that's another place where that robot lives. Wait a minute. Does the robot live anywhere else? I'm really making this big point here. I'm really trying to make this big point here. And that is that that when I search even the native app on an iPhone, right? You tap that inbox, you go do that search, tap on search. See down here? This is also allowing you to click on messages with attachments, a little bit backwards. Then I'll type in Lisa's last name. There she is. That's her people signifier. And so what I'm trying to do here and then hit search, those are all emails from Lisa with attachments. The big message here is that finding things fast is a huge part of doing everyone's job these days in technology, and advanced search is the tool that helps you do that faster. And here's the good news for you. Most people don't use it. How do you get into the habit of using it? Force yourself to use it for an hour. Do like 20 really great searches just as part of your job, not as an hour-long exercise, but just for the next hour whenever you're searching, an hour or two, try to utilize a new advanced search feature. So for example, if you're looking for something that was flagged, go into here and click flagged, and that will round up all of your flagged email in a second, in a flash. Usually it's a little bit faster than this. It slows down a little bit when I'm making a video. 3, 2, 1, come on, there it is. So there's all your flagged email, and that's a good thing for you. You can find that fast. There's about 30 inversions in there of different ways that you can do things, that you can study and do things here. All right, jumping back in here just for a second here. Jumping back in, let's keep looking at some of those robots that we have that we want to kind of work on and get to work for us. And just bear with me 1 second. I'm just making one adjustment. Sorry, guys. I just saw something come in. Never mind. So the Rulebot is another great robot within Outlook. All you have to do to create an Outlook rule is really just kind of highlight an email. This is the simplest rule you can create, and best for creating a routing for your low priority stuff that comes in on a regular basis, low priority repeat senders. I recommend highlighting that email. Looking for the rules area, you can also right click on the email and select rules and create rule or rules. But this way I like, you click rules, always move messages from, it'll autofill the sender, and then you just double click or click on any and click OK on any email folder that you want to send that email to. Pro tip, if you want to have a little bit more organization here, number your top 6 or 7 folders. They will always pop to the top. Not only will they be in a priority position that's easy to find, but our brains do like a consistent order. When we're trying to feel organized and feel like we're in an ordered area, having things be in the same order all the time actually is a really nice for your neatness and your findability of all of that stuff that you're constantly looking for out there. Now, I mentioned earlier all of those interruptions that slow us down, and a lot of those interruptions secretly slow us down. We are aware that it's not ideal, and we look a little farther, but our brain isn't looking at a gauge, watching our energy level get down to 0 when we're saying, let's knock off early, I can't take it anymore. So to avoid that, I think a great thing that you can do is not have those interruptions on your Outlook email. And I already showed you how to disconnect the ding bot on your phone earlier. Remember that? So here we go. If we're going to do this, all you have to do is go into your Outlook inbox. And from your Outlook inbox, you're going to click on File, click, Options, click, Mail, click, and then uncheck all 4 things that happen. Yes, 4 things that happen when you receive an email. And when you're at File, Options, Mail, right? We want to explore that options menu because we're always looking to boost our TQ for options and adjustments that we can make to get more done every single day. Now, this robot, the prioritizer, is great. It just basically color codes your high priority things. And I've found that it's very powerful to categorize calendar items and once in a while email messages that relate to a particular topical area. And so to categorize something, you would look for the little color area here, a little color square, and click on that. Now that looks like in Outlook, this looks like this right here. You click on it, get this drop down. And here we go. So categorize, and then you click on all categories down at the bottom. Next, you're going to click on to create your categories, just click into the squares, or you could select your own custom color. You can delete these. It's really simple, but I would just basically, come up with your own color scheme. And mine is a little bit more about prioritizing like client related stuff. So you can see how I prioritize things here. I only use about 3 or 4 of these on a regular basis, but every once in a while I find that it's, I come back to something that I've used before. So here, if I wanted to color code an email, I could click into that email, right click on the email, select categorize, select, this is my symbol for family related stuff. And now I'll remember, now I can find this. Once I get 20 more messages and they all disappear down to the bottom of my email inbox, I'll be able to round them up real fast. So that's basically it, and you right click here to get those in email. And here's the real trick. This is the reason why I'm showing you this actually. I wouldn't normally show this for email because it's not that useful, but if you learn how to round those email messages up fast. So you're going to want to click into the search box here, okay? And then click to the side and you'll see a really great control panel here. And you're going to click on categorize. It's the one we saw before. And now I'm going to select that color category and see that just rounds up those email messages in a flash. So if I had more to round up here, I would click in, and if I do like key client tasks, it would basically, sometimes it says this, found more on server. It's been saying that a little bit lately. When I click on it, it quickly brings up the stuff that maybe, I don't know, it's storing it offline because it's trying to save computing power. I don't know what it's doing. But you can see how it's really fast, quickly rounds stuff up. So use that prioritizer robot. It's there to help you in a world of competing priorities to get more done. Now, a couple really important concepts that we are trying to stress wherever we go. One of those concepts is send less, get less. So for every message that you project into the world, every e-message that you send out, you're going to get a series of responses. And now, we used to say you get 3 back for every 5 that you send out. But now I like to say you get 15 back for every 5 you send out. Because when we do this on social media, you get notified when 17 people like the same thing as you did or more. You also get notified more in terms of back and forth dialogue with chat or text. So we know that we're creating a lot of churn to a process, and that can be the thing that's tiring us out or shifting our focus away from something that's really important. So a great mantra is to send less so you get less. So the boomerang effect of e-communications doesn't drown you in information. How much less do I recommend? Start by trying to reduce your outgoing email by 20%, 1 in 5 here, at least 20%. And then you'll notice in the research that we've done that you'll see a reduction in incoming email and notifications, pings, dings, buzzes, or rings that's somewhat significant. So I think that's a terrific way that you can reduce volume for yourself, get more done, increase your focus, and have fewer interruptions. Now let's turn to our boost the quality section here. Boost the quality of our communications on a regular basis. This is a big TQ concept that effective communication saves time, helps people get more done. And especially when it's done through technology, that's when we have an opportunity to think about it differently than just normal communication. So this is communication via technology that we're talking about here. And our goal is to boost the quality, clarity, and effectiveness of every email so that we all get more done with less stress and time. This is also an etiquette topic, I think, because when we send less email to others, when we write email that's clear, concise, and actionable, we are becoming better teammates for that other person. We're more productive to work with, and we show more respect for our colleagues when we are sending them clear and effective message that's well written. And what we've discovered is that there is a huge unmet need for improved e-communications. So when we ask this question, do you get vague email subject lines, you don't know what it is, or you open the email and it still requires some clarification, or you get an email with the action buried at the bottom of the message, this is the percentage of the people that said, yes, I often get these things in my feed, my inbox, very high numbers. Basically 4 out of 5 dentists who were surveyed preferred Trident gum, and 4 out of 5 professionals who are asked about email quality say it's not very good. So just remember that this is an area of opportunity always to boost your effectiveness in your communication. So I'm going to have you do a little exercise with me right now. We're going to read a sort of a fuzzy email, and then we're going to read a really clear, concise, and effective email. And by doing that, we're going to give a contrast for clarity of the message. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's read this message here. When you know what you're supposed to do, pretend you're on the team. When you know what you're supposed to do, just raise your hand and I'll see you through the miracle of this recording. Actually, I won't see you at all, but I'll let you read the message. Okay. Now that you've read the message, and since I've done this exercise probably about 1,000 times, I can predict that you didn't like this message. Most of you would very much dislike this message, find it wordy. And if I were to ask you to describe the message, 95, 96% of you would say it was wordy, it was rambling, the guy needs to get to the point, this is confusing. Some of you would be like, delete, making a joke about it. And you're absolutely all right. I mean, this is a very hard to process message. In the world that we're in, we need bite-sized chunks. Our brains are increasingly hoping for bite-sized chunks. This is why TikTok and Instagram Reels and all of these social media where you just get a little blip packet of something. That's what people's brains really kind of want, and that's why they're so popular. But here we really have to just think and tease things apart just to figure out what the meaning is, and the subject line is not much of a help. So this is a long and winding email going in a bad direction that will probably end up getting ignored by a lot of people. That's unfortunate. It's easy to skip over. It hurts our recall. I like to say it's a wall of words. And by that, I mean it's a barrier to communication. So it's actually in the negative. It's not on a scale from 0 to 10. This is like a -5. It's pushing people away from actually reading it. Let's read another example. 5, 4. I'm giving you a little extra time here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here's the second message. So you probably know already, generally speaking, from when I do this simulation live, and I've done it so many times, in about 4 seconds, everyone knows pretty much what's being asked of them. And that's because the subject line is very crisp and clear. The messages are also chunked. It's using bullet points. And so this is really what we wanted to see people move to, a simpler, more effective form of e-communication. A couple of principles that I think are really essential to your TQ as it relates to the quality and clarity of communications that you're going to generate. The first one is the bluff principle, which is bottom line up front. And what we find is that when people put the bottom line up front today, because people are so busy, the recipients greatly appreciate that. And it also makes processing the email the first step of it to understand the task, right? That's really step one. It makes that part of it easy. So put your bottom line up front with a great subject line, and then people will process your message. Chunks. I'm sure at some point in your career you've had to sort some bunch of things into logical buckets or sort them in some way into chunks. And our brains think that way. We want to group things, sometimes not for the best outcomes, but our brains do like to group things together. So when we have a message, we can think about the structure of the message coming in certain chunks that would be reliable and easy to reproduce on a regular basis as you write thousands of email messages throughout the rest of your life. And finally, this is going to be a method called ABC that I'm going to show you right now. Okay. And before I do that, I always forget the slide is in here. Before I show you how to do it, I wanted to mention that the contrast between these two communicators is significant. And the contrast is really something that goes right to your professionalism, your ability to do your job. Great communicators are thought to be great teammates and leaders. And so it's a mistake, I think, to blow off the idea that we can't write a better message. And I was writing these inefficient messages earlier in my life, my career, and getting nowhere fast. And then I figured out, wow, less is more here. And suddenly things start to go quite well. So here's the tool that I really want you to kind of think through and internalize and begin to work with. And this is the ABC email quality tool approach. We've been championing this for 20 years. It never gets old for me because it always helps people communicate more effectively. And to make this example a little more real world, I'll actually, create an email in real time with you using the process that I use for literally every email I create. And once in a while in my personal life, I fall off of this technique and I immediately, something goes wrong. Someone doesn't understand something. Dad shows up at the wrong house for Thanksgiving or whatever it is. So here we go. The first thing you've got to think about is your subject line, your entry point, where you're going to start with a strong subject, a strong headline. This is everything. If you ever give a speech at someone's wedding, if you ever are trying to convince somebody of doing something, you got to think up here. What's the headline? And then what are the bullet points that support that headline? Your subject line is that headline. And the most powerful thing that you can do to strengthen it is to use one-word categories like action followed by a colon, info followed by a colon, request followed by a colon, and so on. And of course, then you're going to put some words behind it. And I recommend having at least 2 concrete words behind it. So complete request, complete Helix project action items. Okay, I know what that is. And then by a certain date. There's at least 2 or 3 concrete things in there. But what was Andy's bad email? That was, oh, that's right. It was one more thing. Not very helpful. Now, I think 2 concrete items is a good number. And you can always put EOM at the end of the message. So if I was writing a message and I said, let me just put this in here, request, please submit your action plan by 6/5, right? 6/5. So here is a great subject line because I'm gonna basically say what they want, and if it's very clear, if this subject is reasonably clear, I just put EOM at the end of it. Which if it's internally for my team, they know, it's just end of message. So if they glanced at this on their phone or in their email inbox, they would say, I know what to do, and then I can delete this message because EOM stands for end of message. There's not going to be anything at all down here. So those are some great principles for a really effective, clear, concise, and actionable email. The next thing that we want to do is sculpt the body. Fewer words in the body of the message. It's counterintuitive, but the more you tell them, the less they're going to know. We see this mistake happening over and over again at almost every event where there's speakers. I've noticed speakers tend to go on for too long, and they end up losing their audience by trying to give their audience more. And the same thing is true about the way that we write email. Sorry, I'm just shifting around here. So I always start with a brief, warm greeting. And it might be something like this. Hi, Ann. Thanks for the great ideas last week. Or, hi, Dave. Have a nice weekend. They're close-ended niceties that aren't going to open up a can of worms of conversation because if we do that for every email we send, we're never going to get anything done. I do think a salutation like hello, greetings, hey, hey, Ann, is really nice. Use a person's name whenever you can, and this is a very quick to do. So I call this the brief, warm greeting, or BWG for short. You can call it whatever you want, but I think it's a great way to visualize the structure, starting with this of the body. Next, we want an action summary, okay? An action summary, and I'm just going to cut to the chase, copy the subject line down. So here I might say, hi, Robin. Hope the conference went great. I type really badly when I'm trying to. And then I would copy the subject line down. First, I'd take the EOM out because I'm going to write some more. And then I'd copy the subject line down. By the way, 3 clicks, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Highlights whatever you're going to have there. Copy, Control-C, and paste. You should really get those shortcuts down there. They will save you a lot of time. So that's the action summary, the summary of action that you're going to take or want them to take or the purpose or meaning of the message. is down here. People don't tend to look up at the subject line. They tend to get focused here. That's the purpose of copying it down. Hit the enter button a couple times and then create your bulleted background points here. Here's where you just jump directly to bullets. Now, here is the most important thing that I'm going to tell you probably in the whole presentation. If you try to say, maybe bullets would work here, you end up writing paragraphs. If you try to say, yeah, could bullets work here? Is this something a good place for bullet point? Maybe I'll type a little bit and then I'll put a bullet point. Forget all that nonsense. Just click on the bullet point, create your first bullet. So your thought process is, what's my first bullet? What's my second bullet? And what's my third bullet? And the great thing about bullet points is if this third one is starting to look like a little complicated, you hit enter, you indent, and you you chunk down the problem into its separate components. Now this looks really bad because it's all typos and it's gibberish for the interest of speed, but I would hit this enter button here, enter button there. I usually just backspace the bullet points out of there, the empty ones. And now what you have is a really powerful message. And I think it's a better way to communicate for just about everybody. And we would all like to receive more messages like this. In my opinion, we may not be cognizant of it, but it really is something where we ourselves want to receive these clear, concise, effective messages. Last bit of advice is a nice, super concise close. You definitely don't want ourselves to be, to be like rambling on in this portion of the message. Just say warm regards and get out of there. And I think you've written a much better message. So strengthen the subject, sculpt the body, and you'll be writing clear, concise, and actionable email every time. So just try to imagine a world in which every message you get is really defined well with a great subject line. You instantly know what's needed. There's a brief, warm greeting that kind of cheers you up. There's a simple statement at the top of every email that tells you exactly what it's for. And then you have these bulleted points that are easy on the eyes and allowing you to get more done. In a close, you just have a little bit of information at the end, and you don't have to write action background close. That's really just so you can see the ABC and the structure of great messages, and then you sign off with a nice, crisp, clear auto signature. That's good communication right there. Great communication even, and I think you'll get more done every time. Now, the problem, in my view, is that we're moving into a smartphone world where mobile devices are how we communicate for a percentage of the day. And even if you're not, you probably will be in some capacity working on mobile phones and mobile devices in the future. So the ABC is actually kind of tricky on smartphones. And for a long time, I kind of didn't know what to show people here. I couldn't really craft very good messages myself. In fact, the bullet point is hard to find on a smartphone. And even getting a colon requires you to go to a different screen. And, you have to go to a different screen actually for punctuation, for numbers, for symbols, and even, and you see a lot more autocorrect errors that way. So one of the great robots that I want to come back, I'm coming back into the robots here. One of the great robots is the Dictabot. And the Dictabot robot doubles your speed, your accuracy, and the clarity of the work that you're doing. And by Dictabot robot, I mean to say, you want to say your punctuation, say new paragraph, and say dash dash. So these are the three things that you can make up. The new paragraph adds a line space in between thoughts to create the chunk feel to the message. And dash dash is a way of using dictation to create those bullet points. And it's faster than typing it out. So I think the evolution that we're going to see in the work world will be to a lot more dictation. And the folks who master it now, and it's really not hard to master, take you 5 minutes, who master it now and use it at the higher levels are going to naturally kind of morph into this new world where we're all driving electric cars and we are all using, I'm just kidding about the electric cars, but we're all using dictation more. Let me give you an example of this right now. So let's say that I'm about to leave send an email message to somebody, and I cancel out of my search I was doing and jump in here. And I'm moving kind of quick, and I need to say a bunch of stuff, and I'm on my phone, and I really don't feel comfortable that this is going to come out great. Let's try a dictation. And by the way, I'm going to count to 3, and if you want to hold your phone up to the when I hit 3, tap the button on your phone. Oh, hold on a second, my phone just disappeared. Perfect timing, phone. Come back. Let me get my phone back on your screen. Here it comes. There it is. Okay, so here we go. So we're inside an email. I'm going to count to 3. You hit the dictation button when I hit 3 and hold your phone as close as you can to however you're listening to this and see if I can't dictate onto your phone. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Hey, April, comma, new paragraph. Request, colon. Please send me your feedback on the ARC conference that we just completed, period, new paragraph, dash, dash. I'd love to hear your constructive feedback, comma, and what you liked or hopefully loved the most, exclamation point, smiley face. New paragraph, dash, dash. Let me know if you have any concerns, period, new paragraph, dash, dash. Any questions, question mark. Okay, so you can see I was very deliberately going along there, just making it up as on the fly. I don't know if you noticed this, but the ARC, it initially didn't understand that, and then somehow by the end of the message, it went to the correct ARC abbreviation. You can probably see, and if I'm still dictating on your phone, hello, your phone, how are you doing? You can probably see the structure that I'm building. I've got my sort of bullet points, my spaces, and I'm evoking a lot of the structure of that perfect message. Of course, I would need to do something a little tricky, copy the subject line or the headline back up to the subject line. So it goes a little in reverse here, but I double tap it. See, I find it a little bit tricky to use these little pull arrows, I'll be honest. There we go. Paste. I just pasted it in there. So now you've got every element of the ABC, and you created it pretty fast. So when you say new paragraph dash dash, it really roots you. You'll find that you're speaking a little more clearly too, as well. Notice when I say colon, that's in there, comma, smiley face. It all works really well. Now, if there was a problem, you could shake your phone back and forth if you're on an iPhone and click the undo button and just redo the message because it will highlight the whole message. And to redo the message, all you have to do is hit the back button once. Also, another pro tip here is if you need to make a surgical change, like let's say if I was going to change this from if you have any concerns to if you hate any concerns, I could press and hold the space bar, long hold and press, hold, and then you'll notice I get this little navigation button here. And I can, if I'm off a little bit, I can just let up again, and then I could surgically put the mouse right between, my mouse is right on top of there. So I could surgically put the mouse, or whatever this is, the cursor, here, backspace, change it to hate, backspace, change it to have, and so on, right there. So that's really 3 tips in one, right? So you can shake to undo. You could press and hold the space bar to actually have a little bit more control over where your cursor goes. Well, that's good, right? So Dictation Nation, that's really a good thing. And we can absolutely, boost our productivity and performance right there. Another thing that we can do, and by the way, this is the step. Oh, this is something I'm going to show you next here. Next thing I want to show you is that you can auto text. So again, if I have a long phrase that I want to print out, right? And I type in TELC, it's my teleconference number, it prints out. If I type in ZT for zip tips, it prints out. And so you can kind of see that I have a lot of these programmed in there. Get control of email. My email addresses. Let's do your email address right now, if you don't mind. Let's try to do your email address. Now, this is auto-correcting. I call this the autocorrect robot. And the autocorrect robot is really, really handy. Stay. Sometimes this wants to be always centered, and I can. Let's see if I can. Oh, come on. There it is. All right, let me see if I can pull this over to the side here. Yes, no. Normally, I can pull it over to the side eventually, so I'm going to keep trying. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to show you how to do this on an iPhone, but you can see the instructions for how to do it on a Samsung Galaxy directly to your left. I would tap the settings button. There's the settings button. And I would scroll down to general, see general in the middle. And keyboard. You'll notice it's a fairly similar pathway on the Galaxy. Keyboard on an iPhone. And then text replacement. And here what I would do is I would tap the upper right-hand corner plus button, and I'd put the long phrase here. Let's say it's an email address, and the trigger phrase that's going to trigger that phrase here, right? So GC, you see it actually triggers the phrase. I'm going to try to get rid of that. And that's what it should look like. And then you hit save. Then all you have to do is type the GC, and it would print out. But what I'd prefer here is to type GE actually, because GE is the first two actual real letters of this email address. And so if you wouldn't want to use get, because that's a word that you'll be using. And every time you type get, it'll print this out. But GE is a very short phrase. And here's the reason why it's important. Because you will not have to remember the phrase you created if the phrase that you're using to trigger that phrase is the actual first couple letters of that phrase. You just have to start spelling out that phrase. Hope that makes sense. So there you go. There's another great robot here as we kind of getting towards the end of our robot tour, but very powerful. The next robot that I have for you here is the same robot, but on Outlook. Now this robot's a very special bot because like I said, it's not just an Outlook autocorrector robot. When you implement the robot in the way that I tell you to do, so that it prints out stuff for you in a flash, it's going to cross-populate to Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and OneNote. So here's how you do it. And by the way, I use this all the time here too. So let me just kind of show off this just so you can see the visual of it. So again, all those same things. Talc, Hamster Revolution, email, HRTQ, Hamster Revolution, this is my new book, and so on, just using all of these color codes, customer service message. You do you figure out what you need, but please do create a whole bunch of these today. Okay, so how do you create them? Well, first you click on File, and then Options. So File and Options, which will be towards the bottom of the page. File, Options, Mail. And we were here before earlier when we were disconnecting our ding. File, Options, Mail, and then Spelling and Autocorrect, and Autocorrect Options. And so Spelling and Autocorrect, Autocorrect Options, and then you're going to enter your short trigger phrase here. Here it is, and your longer phrase right next to it. And then you're going to hit Add and OK. And you've just created a really fantastic shortcut that will print out something for you every day and save you lots of clicks and maybe a little heartache of working as hard as you have to work. So we're just about done here. We've got a robot, and it's the replicator. And the replicator robot here, I'm going to show you how this works, just replicates templates that you build inside of Outlook. We should always take the advantage to duplicate something with minimal effort. So with this replicator template, I can click on the Insert button and Quick Parts and just pop any template I've created right into an email or a calendar item. So I clicked Insert and Quick Parts here, and I can get and find another one here. I use the same one a lot, so there you go, as my example. So the way that you could create these, you create them two different ways, by the way. From Message, you can also store these in templates over here and pop them into places like that. Pretty cool, right? So I'm going to show you how to create one with Quick Parts, which is kind of the one I like. I'll go back to that template. So if you highlight the template, click on Insert, click on Quick Parts. And by the way, if Quick Parts is grayed out, it's because your mouse is not in the main area there. The mouse is kind of guiding it as to where to put this. Quick Parts, and then Save Selection of Quick Parts Gallery. So again, highlight, Insert, Quick Parts, Save Selection of Quick Part Gallery. Name it something really, really great like ARC1 and click OK. And then you could just go find it, click Insert, Quick Parts, ARC1, pop it in there. Alternatively, you could type in ARC1. Well, maybe it won't work here this time. ARC because it has a number in it, I think. Yeah. But you can also sort of type the first 4 letters of it usually and hit enter, and it will pop right into your message. Pretty cool, right? Okay, great. Okay, so let's wrap this up with one last tip here, and then one last little zip tip for you. Whenever you're looking for a date that's off in the future on your calendar and you get a little stressed, you got to toggle forward 5 months to figure out if I'm available on this date in December or something like that, just hit the control button and the G button, okay? And then type in 12, say 6, right? And hit enter, and that will take you right to 12:06. See that? Oh yeah, I'm free in the afternoon, I can make it. Conversely, so just again, control G. How about August 12th? 8 space 12, enter, and there you go. Super easy. Great little calendar navigation tip. Last one. If someone wants to know if you're available on a Thursday in September, you can toggle to that Thursday, press the control button, and just page through all the Thursdays in September. And there you can see, oh, I'm busy on that day, busy. This date's though pretty open, so let's do it on that date. So you can control click, anything you want in there so you get all the consecutive Thursdays in a row. I want to conclude the presentation by thanking you again for your patience. I know there was a problem with the initial presentations. Once in a career, screw up, but it was totally my fault. I felt really badly about it because Robin is such a perfectionist, and I was just rushing too fast that particular week. But I do hope you got some useful ideas from our session today, and my goal for you would be to remember this. The vast majority of professionals say that their colleagues do not share email tips with them, and the vast majority of professionals say that the vast minority of people get tips shared. The vast majority want tips shared, like the ones we covered today. So try to find someone that you can share the top 3 or 4 insights from this presentation with. I can promise you that if you get the groove of doing that, it's great for your teamwork, career, peace of mind. People begin sharing stuff back with you. And that's all about what we started off with. The idea that your tech quotient, the TQ, is the most important thing in the world. And in terms of not the most important thing in the world, it's one of the most important aptitudes to work on for the future. And definitely not the most important thing in the world to anyone. But it's one of the most important aptitudes to work on in your life. I hope you do, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. You can always reach me at info@getcontrol.net. That's Mike Song at info@getcontrol.net if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you soon.